Hello and welcome 6th grade math, periods 1 through 4 for my class.
And 1 through 5 for DJ Tay.
Yep, we are doing this Unit 5 study guide. So here we go. Put this down here and then we will flip that. Make a little adjustment there. All right, a little bit lower so it's easier for you guys to see. All right, so for the Unit 1 study guide, we are looking at area, volume, and surface area. So question number 1, it says the Hyundai Sonata GLS has 35 3/4 cubic feet of cargo space. Which of the following could be the dimensions for cargo space? So one thing that we have to look at is it says cubic feet. So if it says cubic feet, what are we trying to find?
Volume.
Volume. So what I'm going to do is remember that the formula for volume is length times width times height. And for each of my answer choices, I'm going to solve for volume. When I'm taking my fraction, my mixed fraction, I want to make sure I'm turning it into an improper fraction. So I'm multiplying and then adding, because remember you had 2 full groups of 4 of 4 and then 1 group with 3/4 left. So you end up with 11/4 times 2/3 times 13/2, because we're multiplying and adding. The great thing about multiplying fractions, we're just going straight across and then we'll simplify as needed. So when we multiply 11 times 2 times 13, we end up with 286 over 4 times 3 times 2 is 24. And then when I take that and divide it, because 286 divided by 24 will then give you 11, and it's 916, but we're going to round that to 11.92, which is not enough because we needed to have 35 3/4, 11.92, not enough. So A will not work for our answer. B, same idea. I'm going to multiply 5 times 13/3 times 2. Since I have both fractions and whole numbers here, I need to go ahead and make that switch, and I need to make them all fractions, and all whole numbers are over 1. So 15 times 13 times 2 will give you 130. And then 1 times 3 times 1, that's going to give you 3. And 130 divided by 3 will give you 43 1/3. That 0.33333, that's going to give you 1/3. But 43 1/3 is too much, so that will not be your answer choice. That takes us to C, where we have we have 13/4 times 5/1 times 11/5. Multiplying out, that will give you a total of 715/20. And then when we divide 715 by 20, you will end up with 35 75/100. And that 75/100 as a fraction equals 35 3/4. So 35 3/4 equals 35 3/4. Your correct answer for number 1 was C. Number 2, it says use the net to find the total surface area of the square pyramid. Hopefully you already saw that and knew it was a square pyramid because the base is a square. This net is made up of 2 shapes, our square, and then because it's a pyramid, we have our triangles here. So we have to remember how to find the area for each. To find the area for a square, we're doing length times width. To find the area for a triangle, we are doing base times height divided by 2. So let's take a look at our square. Our square's dimension, 7 feet. If it's 7 feet here, it's going to be 7 feet here. So 7 times 7 gives you 49 feet squared, 49 squared feet. So we have 49. And now we need to find the area of each of the triangle faces. So I'm taking what I know about the triangle. I know I have a base of 7 feet. This is 7 feet as well, and then a height of 8 feet. So I'm doing 7 times 8 divided by 2, which gives me 56 divided by 2, and 56 divided by 2 gives you 28 square feet. So each of these triangles is going to have an area of 28 square feet. I am taking the total of all of the faces, all 5 of those faces, and adding them all together. And when you add them all together, you will end up with, let's see, let's cheat a little bit here. We'll do 28 times 4 instead of adding all of those up. It's a quick cheat. 112 plus 49 gets you to 161. So your surface area for this square pyramid is 161 feet squared. Here we go. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Number 3, it says, what is the volume of this rectangular prism? So we're looking at a diagram that has no numbers with it. But we don't need to worry about that because what we do notice is that it is made of grid. We can count each one. So let's find our length. Our length right over here, we're doing 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our length is 4 units. Our width, 1, 2, 3, 4, going this way. That's our width, is also 4 units. And then our height. So we'll start from the bottom. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have our length, our width, and our height. They're asking me to find volume. My formula for volume, length times width times height. So all I'm doing is substituting in my numbers and then doing the math. 4 times 8, 16 times 8 gets you a total volume of 128 units cubed. 128 units cubed. And we're telling them that it's units because we don't know if it's centimeters, inches, or what unit it is. And remember, it's a cubed unit. All right, number 4. I'm going to add a little bit of color to this one because it will help us to see how we are breaking this shape apart. So I'm going to break this letter H, which is going to be painted at the center of Haskins High School football field, and I'm going to break it into 3 rectangles. So I've got my first rectangle right here, and here. I have my second rectangle right here in the middle. Very good. And a third rectangle. I'm not going to break it up into anything like trying to fold it in half or anything like that. No, we want to make it as easy for us to do as possible. So when I'm looking at finding the area of rectangles, I know that to find the area of rectangles, we're doing length times width. So here I have 18 times 6 feet, and 18 times 6 gives you 108 feet squared. And then I'm going to jump over to this rectangle. I'm going to come back to the middle one in just a moment. If I know the length of this side is 18 feet, this side is also 18 feet, so that would make this one 18 feet and this one 18 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in. Now I can multiply 18 times 5 feet, which will give me 90 feet squared.
Ronid Joseph, if you're in the building, please come to the front office. Ronid Joseph, please come to the front office. Thank you.
Now, if I know that this full length is 18 feet, and they've told me I have a 6 foot section here and a 7 foot section there, to find this missing section, all I have to do is add and subtract. So when I subtract, I end up with a length of 5 feet. So now I am doing 5 times 7, which gives me 35 feet squared. So if I know that I have 108 feet squared, 35 feet squared, and 90 feet squared, when I add all of those together, it will give me an area of 233 feet squared. And it is time for a code. Here comes code number 1. All right, so for code number 1, each of you received today in class your My Math Book title for your study guide. And so for Unit 5, we're going to make sure that everyone gets their codes. We have a total of 4 codes, so stay tuned till the end. Our first code is the first letter of your last name. You're finding that, And then you are writing down the word that you see. So I am Miss Traster. The T is the first letter of my last name. So I will be writing down kingdom. And Miss Tay, what are you going to be writing down for code number 1?
All right, so my last name is Pugh, so I'm going to be writing down queen.
Ooh, absolutely. All right, so please make sure up at the top of your page you have your name, today's date.
So 12.
12th. Gracious, we're already midway through. And then choose your period, please. These will be collected in class tomorrow. So get your first code, take a look at it, freeze it if you need to, and we are on to the second page of our study guide. All right, let's take a look at number 5. So number 5, we have Esmeralda, and Esmeralda is getting new carpet for her rectangular bedroom. Her rectangular bedroom. See what I did there? I made a rectangle. And her room is 12 feet long and 14 feet wide. I'm going to need to know both of those dimensions. If the carpet costs $4.50 per square foot, how much will it cost her to carpet the room? All right, this is a 2-step problem. And one of the things that I notice is there is no illustration to go with this. You need to draw a picture. We see too many mistakes, people not drawing pictures, and they make silly mistakes. So please make sure that you're drawing it. We've got a rectangular bedroom. We know that the room is 12 feet by 14 feet. Whoops. Yeah, 12 feet long by 14 feet wide. Not drawn to scale, but that's all right. And now I'm going to find the area. Remember, to find the area of a rectangle, I'm multiplying length times width. So 12 times 14 gives you 168 square feet. Knowing that information, now I can figure out the cost. For every square foot, I have to multiply it by $4.50. So I'm taking 168 and I'm going to multiply that by $4.50. You can do it by hand, or you can use your handy dandy calculator, and our total would be $756. So the total to carpet her room would be $756. If you stopped at 168 feet squared, you did not complete the whole question. Number 6. All right, so number 6, we have Amy, who has determined she needs a truck with 1,500 cubic feet of space to move her furniture. And then they're showing us a model of a truck, and they're asking, does the truck illustrated have the space she needs?
On an interruption, Julia Mwangi, if you're here, please come to the front office. Julia Mwangi.
If no, how much more space does she need? And if yes, how much space is left over? So we know that we need a minimum of 1,500 cubic feet. And if I am careful and I'm looking for clues, I see cubic, which tells me again,
Volume.
volume. So I'm finding volume. Volume equals length times width times height. So I'm going to use that information, and I'm going to take my dimensions from the truck, and I'm going to fill them in. So I have 18 1/4 times 9 feet times 9 1/4 feet. You can take these numbers and turn them into improper fractions, or because we've got quarters, we've talked about this in class, you can go ahead and turn these into decimal numbers, 0.25 for each of them. But we're going to go ahead and multiply these out, and when you do multiply all of these out, you will end up with 1,519.3125 feet cubed. Now, this number is not the end of our question. This was just us figuring out how much would fit into this truck. And we know that this is what would fit into this truck. So now we have to go back to the question. It says, does this truck have the space she needs? And the answer is yes, because 1,500 is less than 1,519.3125. So yes, she will have enough space. But wait, there's more. We have to figure out how much space is left over. Left over tells me that this is a subtraction question. So we are going to take 1,519.3125 and we are subtracting 1,500 from it, which will give us 19.3125 feet cubed, or cubic feet, left over. So our answer is yes, 19.3125 feet cubed left over. All right, number 7. This one was like a vacation. This one, we're just finding the area of a triangle. So, can I get a little audience help on this? How do we find the area of a triangle, everyone?
Half of base times height.
Half of base times height, or?
Base times height divided by 2.
Base times height divided by 2. Thanks for the assist, guys. All right, so we are taking this information and we're going to look for our base and our height. Now remember, they will add extra numbers because that information is necessary for other types of questions. But we are looking specifically for our base and our height. Our height will make a 90-degree angle. So here is my height, here is my base. All right, I'm taking those numbers and putting them in. 16 times 8 divided by 2, which would give us 128 divided by 2, which gives us a final area of 64 meters squared. So 64 meters squared for number 7, the triangle. Question 8, we've got a cereal box, and this cereal box is in the shape of a rectangular prism. They've given you a picture. The height of the box is 10 centimeters. The width is 6 centimeters, and the length is 8 centimeters. Draw a net, that's the first part, and calculate the surface area. So we need to draw the picture of the net, which we've been working with all week on these nets, and then we also have to make our surface area to find out the front, the back, the top, the bottom, and both sides. We're going to calculate for that. So let's start off with our net. Try and, woo, got a little crazy on the side on that one, but that's all right. All right, we'll make that work. All right, a little off from rectangles, but we'll make them work anyhow.
Interruption. Disregard.
I have to make sure that I'm putting in all of my dimensions. So I have 8 by 6 by 10. Now when I take this and fold it out like we worked on this week, each of these lengths are going to be 10. Then I have 8 by 6, 8 by 6, and then I have 6, 8, and 6. All right, so I'm unfolding it, and I can think of it as doing the front and my back, my top and the bottom, and then my sides. Then I'm just doing straight multiplication because I'm finding the area of each of these faces, and then I'll put them back together. So 6 times 8, 48. Then I have 8 times 10, which is 80. I have 6 times 8 again, 48. 6 times 10, 60. 8 times 10, 80. Let me circle these so they stand out a little bit. And then 6 times 10, 60 again. Once I have found the area for each face, I'm adding them all together, and your total surface area for this cereal box is 376 centimeters squared. There we go. All right, it is code time.
All right, so here is code number 2 for my math book title. You are using the last letter of your first name. And I go by DJ Tay, so I am going to use Tay. So the last letter of my first name will be E for inequalities.
And just like you, Miss DJ Tay,
Whoop, whoop.
Spin Master Traster's first name ends in an E, so I am also inequalities. Make sure you're writing it down. Pause it if needed. All right, page 3.
Okay, so we're going to look at number 9 now. It says, what is the surface area of the right triangular prism? So here's what's cool. They give us the net already, and we have the measurements for each part of the net. So what we're going to do is find the area of each of these faces and add it all together. So let's look at the first one. This is a rectangle. It's a 7 by 8. We know that the area for a rectangle is length times width. So 8 times 7, that's 56. Now we're going to look at this. This looks like a square because we know that if this is 7, that means this is also 7. So 7 times 7 is 49. Now we're coming over here. We know if this is 7, that this is also 7. So, and this is also 7. So we're doing 7 times 9, and that's 63. Then here we have the triangular sides, and these two match each other. So we have a base, which we know is 7, because if this is 7, so is this. And we have a height of 8. But the area for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So I'm going to multiply my 7 times my 8 in order to give me times 8. It's going to give me 56. And then I'm going to divide the answer by 2. All right, and 56 divided by 2 equals 28. So the surface, the area for both of these triangles, that'd be 28, and this one is 28. So now we need to pop this into a calculator and add up all of these faces together to get the total surface area. So when I do that, I get a total surface area of 224 square inches. All right, let's look at number 10. A wall is built using standard size bricks. The illustration shows the dimensions of a standard construction brick. What is the volume of one brick? So we want to know volume. That's important because for volume, it's length times width times height. Okay, length times width times height. And we have some fractions here. So let's start with the first one. Our length is, we have 12. I'm going to start with multiplying these two fractions. In order, since they are mixed numbers, I have to change them to improper fractions before I can begin. So instead of 7 1/2, it's going to change. I use multiplication then addition. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Then I put it over the original denominator of 2. All right, and now instead of 6 1/2, it's 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Then I put it over the original denominator of 2. So I'm going to multiply these together. 15, and for fractions, we multiply straight across. 15 times 13 is 195. And 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm not done yet because I did the width and a height, but now it's time for me to take care of this length part of it. So I'm going to multiply this answer that I have now by 12. So because I have a whole number, I'm going to make it easier on us, I'm going to put that over 1 to make it into a fraction without changing its value. So now 195 times 12 is equal to 2,340. And 4 times 1 is equal to 4. And now I could pop this into the calculator to simplify. 2,340 divided by 4 equals 585. So that's what, that's what the volume is. 585. But we're not done yet because I need to put my units. And I see that my units are centimeters. And because it's volume, it's cubic. All right, so now for number 11. What is the surface area of a cube with a side length of 9 yards? So, again, we don't have a picture here, but I like to draw a picture, even if it's not perfect, to help me to visualize what it is that I'm doing. All right, so I have my little cube there, and I know that the face of a cube is a square. So it tells me that the side length is 9 yards, right? So if that's 9 yards, here that means that this is also 9 yards here. So in order to find the area of just one face, I have to multiply length and width. So 9 times 9. And that equals 81. So I now know the area of just one of the faces, but I'm not done yet because I want to know the entire surface area. So I need to know how many faces are on a cube. Spin Master Traster, how many faces are on a cube?
There are 6.
6 is correct. So I'm going to take that 81, that's the value of 1 for the area of 1 square, and I'm going to multiply that by the 6 squares that I have to make up that shape. And 81 times 6 is 486. So I have to go ahead and make sure I put my units, and that's yards, and it's area, so it's squared. All right, so number 12, it says which quadrilateral does not have an area of 64 square inches? So I love this question. It was intended to be tricky, and it's a lot of fun, but it makes you have to think about your vocabulary, because the first hint right here says which quadrilateral, and Spin Master Traster, how many sides are on a quadrilateral?
That would be 4.
4. So one of these things,
It just doesn't belong there.
doesn't belong there.
I can get rid of it and do less work.
Exactly. So we have this mystery shape here. That's a triangle with 3 sides.
That would
so
not be quadrilateral.
Yeah, so we automatically know that that answer is not correct. Now it's time for us, in order to see what the areas are, because we want to find which one does not have an area of 64 square inches, we're going to find the area of each of these shapes. So this is a rectangle, so I know I'm going to find length times width. And 4 times 16 is 64. So this is 64 square inches. And now we can skip over this one, right? And we know A is not it because it does have an area of 64. So now let's go on to the square. These lines here tell us that each of these sides are the same length. And they show us that it's 8 inches. So that means that's 8 inches. So this is also 8 inches. And we're doing length times width again. So 8 times 8 equals 64. So this is 64 square inches. Again, so that doesn't fit.
Doesn't fit.
So now we are going to look at this trapezoid. Now, process of elimination says this has to be the answer. But I still want to look at what the area is of this just to be sure. That is not another trick, right? So remember we said for trapezoids, you are going to split that trapezoid into 2 triangles. So I'm going to color this first one, outline this first one in red. So we have this first triangle here. And then I'm going to outline this second triangle in green so that we can keep them straight. All right, so looking at the first triangle, we know first, starting off, that the area of a triangle is base times height, then divide that by 2.
Don't forget the divide by 2.
Yeah.
They were making that mistake today, and then they were kicking themselves.
Oh,
over it.
yeah. So I have to look at, for my red triangle, my base is 4 inches. And this shows me that the height from this base to this one, see that point, is 6 inches. So 4 times 6 is what? 24. And then we're going to divide that 24 by 2. So now when we divide that 24 by 2, we get 12. And so that's 12 square inches. All right, so I'm just going to put a 12 here. Okay, so now let's look at the second triangle. All right, the base is showing us is 16 inches. Now they have a 5 inches here, but sometimes they'll give us information that that information isn't important. You have to stay true to your formula there. So our base is 16 and our height is 6 still. All right. So now we have 16 times 6, and it gives us 96. And then we're going to divide that 96 by 2, and that gives us 48 square inches. Now, we're not done yet because we know the two separate triangles, but adding those two areas together gives us the total for that trapezoid. And the total is 60 square inches. So we have just proven that it is not 64 square inches. So that's our answer choice. So now it's time
for code set number 3.
All right. So for code number 3, this is the month of your birthday. So the month of your birthday gives you your next clue, your next code. So mine is in February, so mine is fire.
And mine is May, so mine is night.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, awesome.
Look, put your code in. All right, last page.
All right, so number 13. This one, it kind of threw you guys for a loop. So this is going to be fun to try to really get to the bottom of it. It says a 14-foot by 14-foot garden is surrounded by a gravel path. So we see the 14-foot by 14-foot. That's the garden. Sometimes it helps to label these things. Yeah. So we have the garden, and then it says it's surrounded by the gravel path. So I'm just going to write path. The gravel path is shaded in the diagram. What is the area of just this gravel path? So I'm going to find out the area of both of my squares here. I see I have squares. So for my first one, I see that it is 28 by 28. So 28 times 28, and that equals 784 square meters. All right. And now I see here the garden is 14 meters by 14 meters, and that equals 196 meters squared. So that means that this 196 is a part of this total 784. But I just want to know what the path is. So that means I need to know the difference between the two. So I need to do some subtracting. So 784 minus my 196. And that gives me 588 square meters. So that's the area of the gravel path. All right. So now let's look at our next one. Our next problem, it says the dimensions for two boxes are shown in the table. Which box has the greater volume and by how much? So we're looking at volume, which one is the greatest, and we want to know by how much. Those are important keys there for us. So we know that volume for these rectangular prisms is length times width times height. And look at this. They give us the length and the width and the height. So that means I'm multiplying 15 times 12.5 times 4. And that gives me a total of 750 cubic inches. And then for box B is 18.4 times 6 times 8. And that gives me a total of 883.2 inches cubed, or cubic inches. All right. So I know which one has the greatest volume because I see that 883.2 is a good amount more than 750. So the first part of my answer would be box B. But I'm not done yet because it wants to know by how much. That means that it wants to know what's the difference between these two volumes. So I'm going to do some subtracting. 883.2 subtracting 750. All right, and I pop that math in, and I have 133.2 cubic inches. That is the difference between the two. All right, so our last one is the constructed response, and this one was also a lot of fun because you couldn't just do a quick guess. You actually had to do some work here. So let's look at the first part. It says Spin Master Traster bought a new refrigerator. It came in a box with a height of 8 feet, a length of 4 feet, and a width of 8 feet. what is the volume of the box. So we're looking for volume. And so that means the volume equals length times width times height. My length is 4. We're going to just substitute these in. My width is 8. And my height is also 8. So we're going to multiply those. 4 times 8 times 8. And that gives us 256 cubic feet. All right, so that's the volume of this box that her fridge came in. All right, but now it says in part B, explain in complete sentences how the volume of the box would change if each dimension or measurement of the box was doubled. Now, your first guess might have been, well, if the dimensions were doubled, then that means the volume doubles. Well, that means we need to test that hypothesis. All right, so we think that the volume would double, so let's check and see. Remember, volume equals length times width times height. So if I doubled my length, it would go from 4 to 8 because double means to multiply by 2. And then if I doubled my width of 8, it would go to 16. And then doubling my height of 8 will make that also 16. So 8 times 16 times 16 equals a whopping 2,048 cubic feet. Wow. So that's definitely not just doubling that. Well, now I'm curious. So I know now my hypothesis that it would be doubled is incorrect. But now I want to see exactly how much is it. Okay? I want to see how much is it, the difference between those. So I am going to divide 2,048. Divide that by that 256 to see, and that equals, according to my calculator, 8. So that means that when I double each of my dimensions, I made that volume 8 times bigger. 8 times bigger. So hopefully you wrote out your explanation for that in complete sentences and you have it all ready to go. And now we're getting ready for the very last code. All right. So this one is cool. You know, we always like to do one based on your class and your teacher and your class period. So this one for code number 4, math teacher and class period. So this means that Spin Master Traster, we have to choose a class to give a shout out to.
All right. So the class I'm going to give a shout out to is my first period. So I'm going to use science fiction.
Awesome. And mine, I'm going to also follow your lead, and I'm going to choose my first period, and that means it's a mystery.
So for mine, while you're writing yours out, Miss Tay, I know you're getting yours ready there, mine will be The Kingdom of Equalities at Night, a science fiction novel. All right, so my book would be over here where we would write our summary. My book's going to be about a kingdom with inequalities. They'll be greater than, less than, equal to, and I'm going to put some aliens in mine because I'm an alien. I'm a Canadian, so I'm going to add a little aliens into my story.
Awesome. And mine is The Queen of Inequalities and Fire, a mystery. So mine is about this queen who, you know, she's the queen of inequalities, so she's not quite fair in her kingdom. So the people want to get rid of her, but when they wanted to get rid of her, she instead was kidnapped. Who did it? We don't know, but we'll find out. So
you'll write that down.
Yep.
A brief summary, as brief as what we just said, you'll write that down. These will be collected at the beginning of every class tomorrow.
Meet us in the labs.
Yep, we will be in Dell Lab 1 and Dell Lab 2 over by the Media Center tomorrow.
Have a great one, guys.
Bye.